Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport, and a very late review of the Austrian Grand Prix, because unfortunately I had to wait for everyone else to go to bed because this is not a quiet flat. So, Austrian Grand Prix 2022 was a really good race. I actually really enjoyed watching this one, and it's something I've noticed over the last couple of years, especially during COVID as well, that I actually really look forward to the Austrian Grand Prix. It's a really good track, and it just produces a lot of action. It's got good corners. It should be a mainstay on the calendar, and given that it's, I guess, sponsored by Red Bull, I don't know if it's actually part owned or not, but it is the Red Bull ring, so as their team is doing so well, you would expect it to be a mainstay of the calendar. And yet I feel, because it doesn't have like the history of somewhere like Monza or Spa, it would be one of those races in danger of being replaced by a third track in America or something, and that's a shame because Austria is a great Grand Prix circuit. And this was a sprint race weekend as well. Still don't like it. Still don't really get the point. I don't know if it's going to shake up the championship at all, but I guess we're stuck with them, at least for now. It was an interesting qualifying as well. Both Mercedes crashing out in Q3. It looked like it was going to be a troublesome weekend for them, and it did kind of work out for them in the end. But you don't really see Hamilton crashing that often. So him crashing out and starting, was it 8th or 9th in the sprint race? That was a bit of a shock. And in the sprint race itself, the race wasn't bad. I enjoyed it, but it's just unnecessary. But by far the best thing about it, the highlight of that race, was Mick Schumacher, who put up a valiant defence against Hamilton. And that actually continued into the race as well. But I was incredibly impressed by Schumacher this weekend. I think since his crash in Monaco and, you know, the rumours of him being replaced, he's really got his head down and he's, you know, really getting on it now. He got his first points in the British Grand Prix, scored more points this weekend, driver of the day, and deservedly. He beat Magnussen as well. It was just all round a fantastic weekend for him, and I hope he continues it. He's got this newfound form. Haas themselves look pretty quick. I think they both had a good weekend, both drivers. The car looked pacey. It definitely is in for top half of the midfield, I guess. Alpine are probably faster, but all the other midfield teams, Haas are definitely thereabouts. So I'll go through the events of this race. To start with, Russell hit Perez. Unfortunate, and Russell is to blame. Perez was slightly ahead and he caught him. But I think first lap, I don't think Sergio Perez should be trying a move like that. I know he has to make progress, and he did give George Russell room, but I think he would have been better off backing off and waiting. I think he had the Mercedes on pace and a bit of patience. I think Sergio Perez would have, you know, finished his race on the podium probably if he hadn't been on the outside of Russell on the first lap. Mick Schumacher passed Hamilton at the start at some point, so I can't remember if that was on the first lap or first couple of laps. I think that was a Hamilton mistake. But Schumacher got past him and kept him behind for a little while. Just shows you how much he's growing as a driver, and a big boost in confidence is really helping him. This race, at least for a little while, was all about Leclerc versus Verstappen. It maybe wasn't the battle we've had at other races. It was very brief, and the Ferrari definitely had more pace than the Red Bull here. Leclerc passed Verstappen in a really good move, just caught him napping and got him. It was a top class move. Very impressed. That's a championship winning move if ever I saw one. Now I think Ferrari need a little bit more luck. Other casualties of this race, we saw Vettel get hit by Gasly, who is not having a good season. Latifi retired again, although this time mechanical issues, not contact. Although I think he might have had some damage from an incident we didn't see. Again, Latifi is not having a good season, and I don't see him getting past this year. I think this is definitely the end of the Canadian's Formula 1 career. not much happened at the midpoint of this race. There were some good battles in the midfield. There was a point where we saw like 5 cars racing against each other very closely. And again, I think this track is really good for doing that. You do get... Again, it's just cars get bunched up around here, and with all the DRS zones, it's the one track where DRS kind of works. Because you have 3 of them. You have down the main straight, down to turn 2 and 3, or the turn 3 and 4. It keeps it all very, very close, because once one car's got past, the car behind's got a chance to get back again. It makes it very, very interesting. But the turning point of this race was once again Carlos Sainz breaking down. He's had the worst luck of the top 3 in 2022. This was quite a scary incident because his car was on fire and rolling backwards with him trying to jump out of it. They managed to get it sorted in the end, but I don't think they're very quick. And it was definitely a missed opportunity for a safety car to bunch everyone back up. I don't know if they were trying to avoid any more incidents, but I would have liked to see the race basically neutralised and really put Verstappen and Leclerc back together, see what could happen. We got a virtual safety car, so that didn't happen. And they stopped for tyres as well. So the end of the race looked pretty straightforward, except Leclerc had throttle problems. Verstappen was closing, but Leclerc held on and took another win in 2022. Kind of puts Ferrari's title challenge back on track. Although with Sainz retiring, I think it was more of a missed opportunity for Ferrari. I think Red Bull will be fairly happy with their result. I think they were definitely off the pace of Ferrari this weekend, so Sainz retiring and Verstappen grabbing second is pretty decent for them, even with Perez retiring. Mercedes in 3rd and 4th, I don't think this weekend could have gone much better. One point I will take umbrage with though is that Verstappen pitted his second pit stop relatively early, and Martin Brundle said it was to cover off Hamilton because Mercedes were a threat to Red Bull in this race. Now Verstappen came out of that pit stop 8 seconds ahead of Hamilton, so if that was the case, surely they'd have waited a bit longer, even if Hamilton was a bit faster at that point. Hamilton ended this race 38 seconds behind Verstappen. So Verstappen could have taken 2 pit stops, pretty much, and still finished ahead of Hamilton. So how are they racing each other? How are they in the same race? How are Mercedes a threat to Red Bull when that is the difference? Now, Hamilton was quite far off by the end. Maybe he backed off, could have saved the engine a bit, not risk damaging the tyres, not taking chances, just get the podium, get a good result. But I feel like this is something that happens definitely on the British commentary. I don't know if it happens in the rest of the world, and I'd be interested if you are watching it in different languages to tell me what the commentary is like. But the British commentators, and especially Martin Brundle, really do go to bat for Hamilton a lot of the time. This was to the point of ridiculousness. Mercedes have improved, and Hamilton is driving well, but they are still several steps behind Red Bull and Ferrari. And I think Leclerc and Verstappen especially are miles ahead. I can imagine Hamilton taking a win before the end of the year. There's still quite a long way to go. Mercedes can develop further. They've got a lot of resources at their hands. I know there's a cost cap, but I'm sure they could pull something out. But this weekend it wasn't going to happen unless all 4 of the Ferraris and Red Bulls retired. But 3rd and 4th is still a good result for them. Russell is still doing decently. He's made a couple of mistakes in the last couple of races. But at the same time, he may have retired in Britain, but he's still got 4th place here. It's still a really good first season at Mercedes for him. Hamilton, he's still behind Russell, but he is closing that gap. It's closer than people think. So it's overall, whilst it's not how Mercedes... It's not going how Mercedes wants, but it's not as bad as you'd think. Another podium for Hamilton here. It's sort of as good as can be expected. Ocon finished 5th. He's another driver who I think last year I said wasn't really impressing, and I think he was in danger of losing his seat to Piastri. This year he's been doing really, really well, and Alpine look really good. Honestly, Ocon and Alonso on pace at times looked like they could easily start challenging Mercedes for the third best team. I don't think it's going to take much. And Ocon, again, another really good performance. Mick Schumacher in 6th, fantastic. I've already spoken about it, but I am really impressed by Mick Schumacher this weekend. Lando Norris in 7th. It wasn't an easy weekend for McLaren, and he did a good job. He is definitely making Ricciardo look bad at this point. Magnussen was 7th, or 8th, sorry. It's again, as I said, a good weekend for Haas. Good double points haul for them. Ricciardo in 9th, it's not too bad. Alonso 10th, also really good for him. Outside the points, Bottas just didn't look like he had the pace this weekend. I think we barely saw him. Albon, he was running in the top 10 at one point and doing okay, but again, I think he's about where Williams are. Stroll, still really average and really unimpressed by him this season. Honestly, if he wasn't the owner's son, there would be talk that he would be gone. Zhou behind him, again, did okay, but I think we barely saw him. Didn't seem to have the pace. Gasly, AlphaTauri just continuing their disappointing season. With Vettel and Tsunoda behind, just disappointing. Sainz retiring, Latifi retired, Perez retired. It's Sainz and Perez especially will be very disappointed because they are they're not in the title fight, but they weren't millions of miles behind, and both of them are doing good jobs as basically second drivers. Both have taken a win this year. They're not in the same league as Verstappen and Leclerc at the moment, but they weren't like if things happen to the front two, they could capitalise. But the bad things seem to happen to those two. And I guess it's because they're closer to the pack than the other two, or they just seem to get the worst of the mechanical malfunctions. But this was a good race. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it from start to finish. There's plenty going on. The battle up front at times there wasn't really that much battling at the top. I mean, Leclerc overtook Verstappen twice, but he did so fairly easily. Sainz, I think, would have easily gotten past Verstappen the second time as well if his engine hadn't gone. He was closing on him. Perez being up there as well would have made it an interesting race because I think Red Bull would have had more options in terms of strategy. But overall, this was a good win for Leclerc. I'm sure he'll be thrilled. The title race doesn't change too much, but I don't think we want it to because it is all fairly close. And now we have a few weeks break as well because I think Hungary's at the end of July. And I don't know if I mentioned this last time or not, but there are far too many races in this calendar. Grand Prix weekend should be special. I do think 16 to 18 is that should be the limit for the year, and no sprint races. Because these races come around so often, it just doesn't feel special to have Formula 1 on at a weekend anymore. I mean, there's 22 races in a year. That's not too far off half the year, and they seem to want to add more. There just isn't space. It's nice having a 3-week break now, and I'm sure we're going to get some big developments for Hungarian Grand Prix. New wings and bits and bobs they're going to glue onto the car, and it might mix up the order a bit. I am going to review the Hungarian Grand Prix, and I am looking kind of forward to it, but I do think it's probably going to be a bit dull. But Austria, I hope it remains on the calendar for a long time because the racing here is really, really good. And that's pretty much all I have to say about it. There hopefully will be more videos out this week. My schedule has not been great for the last 2-3 months. But I have been working on stuff, but I'm very time limited at the moment. Like, I should be in bed now because I've got work early. And I'm still awake. I've got to have a shower yet. I look like a fucking bin bag. Subscribe. I don't know. Thank you for watching and have a good one.